Hey, what's up, comrades? Hope everyone's doing great. We're here to discuss Fairy Tail Volume 38 of the manga. Here we go. So we pick up Lucy, future Lucy, past Lucy, Mira Jane, Natsu, everybody, the cats, and Wendy are all rushing through the catacombs here when a bunch of guards roll up, and they're like, jailbreakers, get them! And so then they kind of have chit-chat about that, and the Mary Jane's like, wait a second, Yukino and the Colonel are gone, the Night Captain, Akurio or whatever. And so she runs off and is like, wait, don't get separated. Oh, well, here we go. So they begin to fight, and then we flip over to Gajil and Shadow Rogue or whatever, and Shadow Rogue's like freaking the fuck out, and then he uses shadow power against Gajil and starts knocking him back, and he's like, that's power of Rogue, I am the shadow rules over all fate. It's like silly. So they fight, everyone's watching. Frosh no, it's not Frosh, it's Fro, I think it is Frosh. Fro is Rogue's cat, and he's like, what's going on? And this is not Rogue at all. This is like some crazy shadow possession thingy or whatever. And Gajil's getting like his ass handed to him, so they fight. And then we go over to Gajil, and he's like, oh, I sense something, this magic, no doubt about it, it's coming from the city. And then we head back into like the little battle with the Lucys and everyone else, and they're just like, fight, beating up the guards, they're just beating the shit out of him or whatever. And then some anti-magic guys show up, and they blast Natsu real hard, but he's like, that's all you got? Back over with Gajil, he is like crushing the throat of Shadow Rogue is crushing Gajil's throat and tosses him, and then Levy, of course, his girlfriend, is like super upset about it and screaming, and then Fro is running up too to stop Rogue as well. And then Gajil's laying there, and Shadow Rogue's like giving him a really angry look, and then Gajil's like, oh, if not the fucking Natsu can do it, I can do it too. And then he absorbs all the shadow magic, and so that he becomes like an iron shadow dragon, and it's like fucking badass. Holy shit. And then he's got like this wicked smile, and he just starts beating the shit out of Shadow Rogue, just like punching him and knocking him around and showing an anime battle, blasting through walls. And he has like some super powerful like breath attack that just explodes out of the stadium and like wrecks Rogue completely, knocking him out completely and taking him out. Oh, and at some point during this battle, Gajil says some crazy stuff because Rogue's talking about how he always looked up to him and like, wanted to be like him, and how he, all that stuff from like the previous episode or issue. And then at some point, I kind of skidded past it. Okay. And then, so Gajil at some point recognizes he's talking not to Rogue anymore. He's talking to Gajil, and he's like, get out of Rogue's body. And the guy's like, what? And he's like, his name's not even Rogue. It's Leos. He was my apprentice. And he talks about fear. I know he feared him then, but he seems to have not feared him anymore, and he'll teach him fear again. And then once he beats him, there's like this little shadow monster that like runs away, and Gajil's like, the fuck? And then he turns around and Fro's there crying. He's like, Rogue could die, help him. He's like, no, he's fine. And Rogue's like, oh, I hurt, but I'm okay. And Gajil's like, So there's some like more connection there, which is interesting. I realized that. Back down in the caverns, just more fight the guards, fight more guards. And then the executioner guys show up, and they're like, we'll get you now. You didn't beat us before, but now we're going to get you. And Natsu's like, fuck. And then Arcadios is put on like this sweet ass white armor, and he runs up stairs. So he's like, I'm going to talk to the princess. And they're like, you can't see the princess. And he's like, the fuck I can't. And the guards are like, okay, you can go. And then there's more fighting in the catacombs. And then we kind of start bouncing around a little bit here. We go to Urza and, what was her name? I just had it. It starts with an M. Urza and the lady she's fighting from Sabretooth. She's tossing her around, and then we see, it's like the pre-battle sadness before the fun stuff. So we see Juvia and Gray fighting Sharia and Leon, and they're getting kind of beat up too. But then Gray recognizes that Sharia and Lan aren't fighting as a team; they're just fighting individually. And then we go to Juria. Jura. Is it Jura? It's not Juria. It's just Jura and Laxus and Lightning Guy. And the lightning god guy or whatever, he does some super powerful lightning attack. That's like his most powerful attack. And Jura just like one punches the fuck out of him. It's like, holy shit. It was so good. Everyone's like, oh, Lexus is fucked. But then his homies like Fred and Bikloff and what's her name? I was her name, the fairy chick. I know she's a fairy. They're all fairy chicks. But anyway, they're all like, no, we believe in Master. We believe in Laxus. And then this, not Sharia, but Sherry is like, oh, they're fucked. And then or she says something about something, and then it's a hilarity ensues. But we find out that at this point, Jura is the fourth, or he's the fifth most powerful wizard saint, and that there's 4 other wizard saints that are more powerful, but the Jura will never match up with them because none of them are human, or they're not human anymore or something. So Jura is like the most powerful human wizard saint or whatever. So him and Laxus, shown in anime battle, like talk shit to each other and stuff, and we got some badass like profiles of them, and then they start going to town. And Jura's supposed to be like One Punch Man's Laxus, and everyone's like, holy shit. And then Laxus, haha, he like uppercuts him and is like, fuck you, better look down and stop looking up all the time. Then we just get fucking baller showing an anime battle between the two. They're just like punch and fight and lightning and stone and back and forth and back and forth. And then Laxus is like, he's like, what the fuck is that? And they're both like, wow, this is like the most fun I've had fighting, or the most intense fight I've had in like a decade or like several years. And then Laxus like closes his eyes, like, what's that shit Natsu always says? Oh, that's right, I'm all fired up. It's like baller as shit. So then we go over we get like a page of, is it just a page? We get like a panel. We get a couple panels of like the underground fighting with all the guards. Lucy's got her sexy whip, and her clothes are like completely falling off. And then we pick up with Urza and what the hell is this chick's name? Oh God, I really should know this. Minerva? I think it's Minerva. And then she's like, haha, I got you. You're done. Your leg's all broken shit. And Urza's like, I don't think so. This is for Kagura and Millennia and all my friends. And she gets blasted again. And then Minerva does like this crazy explosion attack. And then Millennia is like, explosions? And then Urza is like, fuck your explosions. Like, I love this shit so much. And it just like cuts through and hits Minerva like real fucking hard. And then she hits her again. And then Urza's like, all right, time for me to like actually start fighting. Second origin release, and she casts this Naga Ami armor thing. And then we go over to Gray and Juvia, and Juvia's looking to beat the shit out of it, hot as shit. And Gray, and then Leon and Shuri are like, all right, let's finish him off. And then Gray's like, puts his hand, it's this great scene. He puts his hand on Juvia's shoulder. She grabs his hand. They hold hands like, we're going to defeat them with the power of friendship. And she's like, yeah, hell yeah, we are. And then the first Guildmaster of Fairy Tail is like, oh, it's so beautiful. Be not afraid, young ones. And then we see Laxus just blow the shit out of Juro with his lightning attack. Like, just holy shit. And knocking him out. So he wins. So now Fairy Tail's in first place because they beat a leader of the thing. And then we get this sexy shot of Juvia and Gray like power forward, and then Shuria's like in amazement of it. And then Leon's like, come on, Shuria, we got to do this together. And she's like, it's so lovely. And then they get blasted the shit out of too, cut by this like water nebula ice attack, ice geyser water nebula thing, and just blows the shit out of him. And then Gray's like, are you going to stop? Are you going to let go of my hand? And Juvia's like, never. Aww. And then we go back to Minerva and Urza, and then Minerva does like her most powerful attack, and Urza just like, fuck your attack. And then she like cuts the shit out of her with just knocking her out, cuts her clothes all up, so we get like panty shots and stuff. Oh, so I love this goddamn thing. And that's it. That's everybody. Everybody's down except Sting. And so everyone's like, oh, Fairy Tail's won, Fairy Tail, blah, 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 blah. And then someone's like, if Sting beats all of them, they can still win. And then Sting, who's waiting for this, he's like, my time has arrived. He puts up this like flash thing in the sky and to summon all the Fairy Tail to fight him. And so they all like stumble on over there, and we see like Urza's like holding herself up with like a stick. Everyone else is like all beat the shit out of. Like Juvia's like holding Gray up, and they all stand there, and then Sting starts talking shit about them, and then they're just like, whatever, we'll fight you one-on-one. He's like, oh, I'm not going to do that. And then they all stand up next to each other. You get this badass shot of them all like getting ready to fight, and they're all beat the hell up and like naked and stuff. And then Sting, like, it's like he's staring into the sun, and so he's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fight you. And then he just like drops to his knees and is like, I can't win. I surrender. And then everyone's like, Adena, it's over. The Grand Magic Games, the winner is Fairy Tail. And all the Fairy Tail guys are crying and hugging and laughing and everything. And then Urza like rolls up and is like, Sting, are you okay? What's going on? Why didn't you attack us? And he's like, I couldn't do it. Like, I had to do it to save... what the fuck's this guy's name? Save his little cat friend. But I couldn't do it, something. And she's like, and now he's going to die. And she's like, are you sure about that? And he's like, huh? And he looks up, and Millennia has... Lecter, that's his name, has Lecter, and it's like, tee, I'm here. And then Lecter wakes up, and then Sting, I'm like, I almost teared up to this. It was so good. Like, this guy is so good at drawing this shit. And so Lecter and Sting like fall into each other's arms, and they're crying and laughing, and everyone's looking, and they're happy and smiling and stuff. And, everyone's like doing great. And then we bounce up to Arcadios, and he's walking up, and because he has this whole thing where he's like, he knows for a fact that Lucy did not lie, like future Lucy did not lie. So if she didn't lie, like, did the princess lie? Like, what's going on? Like, someone's not telling the truth here. And so he heads up, and he goes to the throne room. Princess isn't there, and he's like, fuck. So then he keeps going. And then, there's like celebrations and everything. And, everyone's like, we get shots of all the different guilds, and everyone's sitting around, like Rogue and Frosh are just chilling. And Juro's laying on the ground. He's like, splendid. And Shuria's like, sorry, Leon. And then Fro's like, wow, Fairy Tail's amazing. And then him and Rogue are hanging out, and he's like, I want to become a man that treats his friends right. And Fro's like, yay. And then someone's like, hey, where's Natsu? And then like Sting's like, hey, where's Natsu? And then Gray looks up, and he's like, oh fuck, well, I hope those guys are doing all right. And they're in there, they're fighting the executioners and all the guards and everything. And then, they're having a little bit of problems, but then the shadow monster like comes up and starts swallowing all the guards and everything. And then Natsu and his crew, which is like Lucy, Wendy, Happy, Panther Lily, and Carla, they're like, oh, Nani desu ka? And then we bounce back over to Jalil, Marudi, and Earl Tyr, and we start getting the information that like, okay, there's a second person from like the future or the past or whatever, because future Lucy said she arrived on July 4th, but at midnight on the 3rd, or at sometime before that is when Jalil talked to somebody who was supposedly Lucy, like around sunset, right? Around sunset, he talked to somebody, but then Lucy showed up on the 4th, like at midnight, right? And so there's clearly like some other force around here that's doing something. And then they talk about the magic games and everything, and then we get like a pretty badass shot of like the Eclipse Gate. And then Colonel Arcadios like rolls up, and he's like, Princess, I need to speak with you, or like, Your Highness, or whatever. And then he walks up and he starts saying the same stuff, that he's figured out the same thing, that there's something is amiss. And so he hands her sword, and he's like, I can't follow you because I feel like there's something amiss, so you need to kill me because here goes, this momentary doubt of mine is my dishonor, therefore I'm prepared to die. Right. And so I was like, what the fuck's going on? And they start talking about the different plans and all that stuff. And then he like yells about her. Like he met Lucy, and that's not what she said. And then Princess is the person I talked to was a man. There's two different people. And then Jalil's like, and then he reveals the same thing at the same time. But no, we're in the catacombs, and I forgot, Lion's there. And then all of a sudden the shadow forms, and it's this like crazy looking thing. And then Jalil and Marudi and Ultira are like racing to like, explain stuff. Like, so they know Lucy came back because she wanted to help her friends, but why did this other person come back? I guess, we don't know. And so then we see this guy, and he claims to be Rogue, and he looks like a mix between Rogue and like something else. Like he's got like half dark hair and half like long blonde hair or whatever. And then Natsu's like, Rogue? Like, you don't look like Rogue. And then we bounce around a bunch. People are talking about the Eclipse Gate, the dragons, what people have been told, the things they need to do, what's going on. We bounce to Jalil. And they're like, why'd you open up the royal fort or destroy all the royal forces? And he's like, I needed to do something about this thing. And we learn that the Eclipse Gate, this is where the Natsu crew finds out that the gate can travel you forward and backwards in time, but that Eclipse Gate 2 will like make a Eclipse cannon that will defeat like 10,000 dragons. So we're getting that information. And then it's not that simple. And he talks about he came from 7 years in the future. And that 7 years in the future, the whole world's ruled by dragons. And only like 10% of humans like still live. And they're like, oh, goodness. And then it's like, well, someone's going to close the gate, so they can't use the Eclipse thing on the Eclipse cannon or whatever. And it's like, who's that person? It's you, Lucy Heartfilia. And then he casts like a sword attack against her. And then future Lucy jumps in the way. So she ends up getting stabbed in the heart and dying, so that past Lucy can do it. And there's like a whole moment where she's holding like future Lucy, and we get some nice back shots. And then she's like, why would you do that? Why would you save me? It's like, well, if you die, I'm going to die, you idiot. And it's like, oh yeah, that's true. I guess that's how that works. And it's like, oh no, future Lucy. And then Cappy's crying and talking about how she's her friend. And then they like see she shows her mark of Fairy Tail to prove that who she is. And they're all hugging it out and like being happy. And her and Lucy are holding friends as she dies. And then Natsu gets like super pissed off. And she's like, protect the future. And then, they, what about the door or something, something. And then Lucy's like, why would I close the door? And future Lucy didn't close the door. I wasn't going to close the door. And he's like, you will. This future has already decided something, something. And then Natsu's like, shut the fuck up. Nobody's going to steal Lucy's future from her, right? His girlfriend. And so he goes and attacks him. And then the rest of, that's a good shot of Yukina. The beginning of chapter 325. Okay. Anyway, so he's like, Lucy, get out of here. And so Lion grabs her and Happy and all the cats and Wendy, they run off. And Natsu just starts fighting like Crazy Rogue or Shadow Rogue or whatever it is. And he's using his like shadow magic, and Natsu's like fighting back. And he's like, I dressed the future to them. We then finally go to where Mary Jane is. Mary Jane finds Yukino. She's like curled up in a corner and like somewhere in the palace. And they're, chit-chatting about being friends and the bad luck and how she's like bad luck. And Mary Jane's like, no one's bad luck. And then they like hug it out, and it's super adorbs. Back up at the gate, we get like the sexy princess in her like armor making announcements and talking about how they're going to get everything and do everything with the gate and with blowing the dragons away. And like, why are you opening the dragons? Oh no, we get that in a second. Because Fairy Tale, Lucy, Wendy, and the cats or the Exceed are kind of spying in on this, and they come out to like chit chat. And she's like, why are you starting the cannon? There's no dragons here yet. And they're like, well, it takes a while to charge, so we got to make sure it works and yada, yada. And then the king, who is like a midget, he's like, Sid from Final Fantasy IX when he was like a frogman. Or even after he's a frogman, he's still pretty short. This is Toma e Fiore, who's the king of the Kingdom of Fiore. And he's making an announcement. Like all the guilds are there ready for like the thing. And he explains like the Eclipse plan and how like they're going to blast all these dragons that are supposedly going to come. And then we get like a funny shot of like all the guilds. And then if you look around here, it's like funny. You see people like doing stupid stuff. Like Kana's just like holding a giant barrel of whiskey or booze or whatever. It's great. And then everyone's talking about how they're going to team up and work together to eliminate any of the extra dragons that are lying around. And the king's like crying, and he's so happy that his people are going to do all this stuff. And then we bounce over to our friends, Lahar and Dornbalt. Dornbalt is Mest, who like, it was like a long time ago. Anyway, they're talking about how they need to report to the Magic Council because they're watching this thing from far away. And then someone's like, I need to tell you something. And they turn around and it's Jalil. And they're like, Jalil, what are you coming here to talk to us? And he's like, I have a favor to ask. We then go back underground. Rogue and Natsu are still fighting it out. And then we end this volume with the Eclipse Gate door opening. And then we see a couple sexy shots of Lucy watching it, looking like in awe of the whole situation. And we'll find out where this goes in 2 weeks when we get to volume number 39. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you guys later.